On January 7th, 2022, David Bennett woke up just like he had every day before. However, this time was slightly different because he had a new heart. Mr. Bennett was waking up from the first successful surgery in which a pig heart was transplanted into a human. Now, most of us don't have to think about organ transplants that often, which is probably a good thing. However, transplants have become an integral part of medical science in the 21st century. According to the website for the United Network for Organ Sharing, last accessed February 26, 2023, over 42,000 organ transplants were documented in the United States last year. This statistic represented a 3.7% increase from the procedures done in 2021. These procedures have given new opportunities to patients both young and old, whose conditions were previously seen as being untreatable. Mr. Bennett's story is particularly noteworthy because his procedure was the culmination of decades of research on cross-species transplantation, otherwise known as xenotransplantation. Xenotransplantation is on the verge of revolutionizing medical science, so it's important that we understand this complex process by first looking at how humans began to use animal products medically, before then taking a look at how years of research have resulted in modern xenotransplantation procedures, before finally looking to the future and attempting to predict how all of this will be applied in the years to come. Xenotransplantation isn't quite as modern as many may assume. In fact, the first documented medical procedures involving animal components took place all the way back in France in 1667, according to a 2017 article from the Smithsonian Magazine. The medical pioneer in question here was Jean-Baptiste Denis, the personal physician to King Louis XIV. In what has become one of the most infamous procedures in medical history, Denis transfused lamb blood into 4 young men, 2 of whom died very shortly after their procedures. This resulted in Denis being accused of murder, and therefore such experimentations with animal components being considered medical taboo for the next few centuries. Explorations into xenotransplantation picked up again in the mid-20th century when doctors began to realize that the reason for so many previous failures was the fact that the human immune system was rejecting the foreign organs. As explained in a February 2022 article published by the Association of American Medical Colleges, doctors started to implement immunosuppressive drugs when transplanting primate livers, kidneys, and hearts into humans. These patients had the chance of surviving anywhere from just 2 hours to as long as several months after their procedures. Then, according to a February 2022 statement from the NYU Langone Transplant Institution, porcine, or pig, organs started to replace primate organs in these experimental procedures for a few key reasons. Porcine organs are closer in size to human organs than those of other primates. Also, due to having more genetic differences from humans than other primates do, porcine organs are less likely to transfer harmful diseases during these procedures, which makes them a viable option for a long-term success. Now that we've looked at xenotransplantation from its earliest applications, we're ready to dive into the modern work that's being done with porcine organs. Modern xenotransplantation procedures have had increasingly successful results that give doctors an optimistic outlook on the future of xenotransplantation. An article published in February 2016 in the Journal of Tissue Engineering discusses the effectiveness of using porcine acellular lung matrix in healing damaged tissue in rats. Cellular matrices are basically mesh-like patches that surgeons use as they're finishing a procedure. The matrix essentially acts as a helping hand for the afflicted area by supporting the growth of new cells. The goal for the procedure using the porcine matrix in rats was to imitate how currently used cellular matrices aid the healing process in humans. For context, standard cellular matrices are typically made using human skin tissue, and the porcine matrix was made from a pig's lung membrane. At the end of the study, the researchers concluded that the porcine matrix had more cellular density and caused the growth of more blood vessels than the human one did, both of which are very ideal traits for a fibrin matrix. Another modern medical innovation involving porcine components is porcine fibrin sealant. Fibrin sealant is a liquid that's applied to wounds after injury that's meant to speed up the healing process. It basically acts as a liquid bandage. An article from June 2022 from the Journal of Evidence-Based Complementary and Alternative Medicine describes an experiment in which porcine fibrin sealant was used to treat flesh wounds in rats. In fact, the results of this experiment showed that the porcine fibrin sealant was faster in speeding up the healing process than traditional medical sealant was. The future of xenotransplantation became increasingly bright when doctors were successful in transplanting the first porcine heart into the aforementioned David Bennett in January 2022. NBC News published an article describing his story in July 2022. The procedure went smoothly, and Mr. Bennett was able to survive with the porcine heart for 2 more months before ultimately passing away. His cause of death was the biggest takeaway from this medical venture. Mr. Bennett died because his body was ultimately too weak and couldn't support the heart, so the heart ended up failing. However, it's important to note that his body didn't reject the porcine heart. Since the heart wasn't rejected, the researchers considered his procedure a success, which means that xenotransplantation is not only medically viable, but also that it has the potential to change the medical field in the coming decades. We have looked at the earliest experimentations in xenotransplantation and what's being done with it today. So now, let's turn our gaze to the future and attempt to predict how all of this will come to fruition in the coming years. Current research in xenotransplantation can be seen as an investment in the humans of the future because it could be the key to solving a huge problem in the medical field, a shortage of donor organs, especially kidneys. According to organdonor.gov, last accessed September 25th, 2022, there were 90,483 patients on the waiting list for a kidney transplant in 2021. Of these individuals, only 27,670, or about 27%, actually received a transplant. Also in 2021, researchers at the University of Alabama at Birmingham successfully transplanted pig kidneys into brain-dead humans. According to a January 2022 article from the Scientific American, these transplanted kidneys were able to carry out their vital functions, such as filtering urine, for the duration of that experiment. This implies that xenotransplantation has the potential to meet the demand for kidneys, as well as other donor organs that will inevitably be greater in the future as life expectancies increase. Furthermore, the University of Alabama at Birmingham released a statement in February 2022 explaining that its doctors are hard at work right now obtaining the necessary green light from the FDA in order to begin human clinical trials with these porcine kidneys. Furthermore, many scientists are optimistic that the current techniques being used in xenotransplantation procedures can be applied to other areas of medicine. According to a July 2022 release from the Mayo Clinic, animal stem cells could be genetically modified and transplanted into humans to aid in the regeneration of damaged tissue. Currently, the animals being used in xenotransplantation procedures are genetically modified in a way that reduces the risk of aversive effects from the procedure by making it more difficult for the recipient's body to recognize that the new organ is from a different species. This makes a rejection much less likely and therefore makes the long-term success of the procedure more probable. This application of stem cell technology, plus the reduced chance of an organ rejection, and the chance of having a greater source of donor organs, means that xenotransplantation truly has the potential to transform transplant medicine as we know it. From early experiments in animal blood transfusions to a man literally surviving with a porcine heart, xenotransplantation has undoubtedly progressed in leaps and bounds since its beginning. Today, we explored how humans first began to dabble in xenotransplantation with few successes for multiple centuries, then how we've finally begun to make tangible improvements in these procedures by using porcine organs, before finally considering why it's likely that we'll see more of these exciting operations in the future as scientists continue their work. Thanks to patients like David Bennett, the use of porcine organs is becoming increasingly normalized in the medical field and will save countless lives in the years to come.